Are we rolling?
I think audio's rolling and everything.
Yeah. Hang on a second. For our audio only audience out there, you have a Dad Burn construction vest on.
This is a safety vest.
Yeah,
It's a safety vest.
It is a safety vest.
Commonly associated with construction sites. Yeah.
I think this is our first safety vest guest appearance here on Faith and Frames.
Well,
you want to explain yourself, sir?
Yeah, there's a underlying metaphor / theme there.
And I missed the memo apparently because I'm just
it was my own thought, and I wish there was a way for me to like sprung it on you like during the episode, but I rehearsed how to even do that.
And then you went back to the waffle making episode.
And I was like, you know what? I can't actually do that. So I'm just going to start from inception with this thing on. But when you mentioned like, hey, we need to do an episode kind of dad focused, husband focused, right?
Viewer requested, by the way.
Viewer requested. I was like, oh man, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Because listen, by no means do I have it figured out, but I can share my fair share of mistakes. Hopefully, help somebody along the way. But it got me to thinking of like, the song "He's Still Working on Me" to make me what I ought to be.
The little youth group ditty.
Well, I was like, dang, I'm gonna wear a construction vest because I'm still a dad and a father in construction. Like I'm under construction.
Very fitting. Very nice.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Nice. Maybe nobody else will get it. Listen, between that, my Ben's Jesus shirt, that right there is your two things you need to know. Like you're never complete.
Yeah.
You're always going to be learning and trying to get better at this thing called life. And the only way you're going to do that's through Jesus.
Thirdly, we are not at any point in time claiming to be life coaches.
Yeah. I'd probably be considered the exact opposite.
Which is funny because we've been doing some self-discovery lately, and we are an Enneagram 2 for any of those who follow the Enneagram system. Sometimes 2s think we can fix everything.
Yeah, 2s think that we can fix everything, whether we can or can't.
And most of the time we can't even fix ourselves.
Well, no, I'm an absolute mess. I'll go ahead and tell you that.
So again, full disclaimer, everything that we're about to talk about on this episode, we are not life coaches. Do not sue us if our words...
Between the Enneagram and the wing dive, coupled with the disc assessment. Yeah, there's been a lot of like...
I've had some self-discovery.
Self-evaluation and learning in the last 2 weeks, which is kind of cool.
It is. It's been fun. It's because the Enneagram, before we went through the rebrand, I had not been privy to. I'd heard of it. I've heard people talk about it, but I'd never been really turned on to the details of it. And then whenever we finally did the assessment with Brianna, and then we've talked to a few others about it since, I'm like, nope, it's pretty much got me figured out.
Yep.
It has me figured out.
Yeah, and then we were guests on a podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or a week ago, however long ago. Entrepreneurs, where...
Shout out John Wist.
Yeah.
And Bonnie.
Bonnie is an Enneagram coach.
Yep.
So, like, we probably didn't even need to tell her.
I don't think we did. She figured it out.
She was like, oh, dude, this is a 2-1, and I think Garrett's a 2-3.
Yep, she knew.
She knew, and yeah, it's kind of funny how all that works together. One cool thing about it, though, I'll say this, is like I had my wife take the disc assessment.
As did I.
And we have a lot of similarities, which is kind of weird because you would think opposites attract, and I think for most they do. But we have a lot of similarities, which is, I think the coolest thing with that particular disc assessment, as well as some of the resources out there on how to like interpret the data, understand it a little deeper, is kind of cool because it's like it kind of shows like this way is how this person will commonly react under stress.
Yes. Yeah.
These are some blind spots that this particular type of person is going to be privy to.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it kind of gives some tips on like how to deal with these people, like how to help these people be successful in whatever, how to interact with them. So it's like, okay, this could be useful.
Yes.
It's kind of like I'm going to liken it to like the love language test that I think all couples should probably do.
Yes.
I think there's like 5 love languages, and it ranks based upon how you answer, what your
gifting, service, touch,
physical,
like that,
so all these things. And it's funny to see. It's like, oh, so you prefer this, like words of affirmation and these things. It's like it all can help be a tool to better serve your partner.
Yes.
Once you understand kind of what makes them tick and things.
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting frustrated because they're not just like you. Yeah. Which is common.
It is common. But hey, I'm thankful for the tools that we have at our disposal now to help us navigate this thing called life. Today, per viewer request, this viewer will remain anonymous, but let us reassure you that we appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
We're going to try our best to give our perspective on a few elements of the dad that as dads, I think we've got some information.
We've got experience there, none the least, or at the very least. So
I'm not saying it's the right experience, but we got experience,
or even advice. But what do you call it when a snowman ignores you?
Getting iced.
Oh, that's not bad. A cold shoulder.
Duh. Tack on.
Which is kind of, I mean, a snowman doesn't really have shoulders, but, it works. It works. Welcome back to Faith and Frames. Again, just Garrett and I. Per viewer request, which honestly is, I think that's exciting in and of itself. That,
it is.
That a listener and a viewer was like, hey, I'd like to hear a little more about this. That's always great when it's viewer-led.
Viewer-led, and again, we're going to attempt to oblige.
Yeah. First, let's thank our sponsor.
Sponsors of today's episode, none other than Animals West of Greenville, Tennessee. At Animals West, your pets are our passion. Our dedicated team offers personalized care, advanced treatments, and a warm, loving environment because at Animals West, every tail tells a story. Tony, Amanda, and the crew down on the Newport Highway, thank you for sponsoring this episode of Faith and Frames.
Taking care of these animals.
Taking care of these animals here at Motion Creative Media.
And I'm talking about you and I.
Yeah, that's us. We're the stinky wet dogs.
Absolutely.
Jared, meat and taters. Get us the meat and taters this morning.
Yeah, so dad and the struggles associated with dad, which, in a lot of cases, dad also means husband. So we've got some experience in both of those. We're going to share sort of our experiences and what we've learned.
With a few different points. We do have a few points.
We got a few points. It's like, maybe we've not learned maybe we've not made our light bulb just yet, like to be Edison, but we're working on the 99 things that you don't do. What we've learned, what doesn't work.
And before we get berated and blasted in the comments, I just want to go ahead and put this out there. I, as a dad, do about 1/10 of the job my wife does.
In the parenting world?
In the parenting, yes.
Yeah.
Specifically parenting. So before we get berated, just know, moms, we recognize that you carry the load when it comes to the family equation.
Oh, that
just want to put that on record.
That reel that pops up periodically, it's like it'd be the family dynamic, like when you're getting ready to go to church. It's like all the list of tasks that your wife completes.
Dad took a poop and took a shower.
Dad took a poop and took a shower, and it's like, okay, are y'all not ready? Yeah, guilty there. Those are about the two things I've accomplished this morning on our journey to the Lord's house.
It happens. So yeah, I just want to throw that disclaimer out there. But Jared, let's hop into point number one. I know that a lot of, and especially guys our age, we're in our 30s. So we're in a demographic of males that are still, quote, quote, trying to go out every single day and provide financially for the family, put in the work to keep a roof over the heads, and keep food in the mouths. But I know one thing that, and whether you're an employee, whether you're a small business owner, what have you, the work-life balance is typically a factor that comes into play with a family dynamic, whether it be husband to wife or father to kids. The work-life balance, I think, is one big point that I know I personally struggle with. I'm sure I'm not the only dad out there or husband that struggles with this, but what are some things that maybe we've learned through having to try to strike a work-life balance that, could help somebody?
Yeah, I'm going to hesitate to use the word learned because, again, I think I'm
still learning.
Still walking that
We'll say
path.
Learned thus far.
I think it stems from honestly, when I say there's a burden, I don't know that maybe anybody other than other dads can understand what I mean when I say there is a burden to provide, an urge and just a weight and a stress that comes with needing to provide. Whether you're the sole provider or not, that's not the point. Like, it's in our nature in a lot of cases to provide. And so the way that we do that is through some sort of work. So that we can provide financially, which ultimately provides with food, water, shelter, all of these things, right? It sustains life. And so the difficult thing to do is like, okay, if you look at a day, even if you take like the Henry Ford 888, like 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours of life, so to speak, like that's not what normally happens, first off.
No.
It's
that
more
scale's
like
pretty skewed.
6 hours of sleep if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
You're probably 8 to 12 in some sort of
work environment.
And so that leaves a very, very small amount of time per day to be a family figure that you need to be it husband, be it father. And so it's really difficult because it's easy to justify in our heads, like, I need to do this so that I can provide.
Yeah.
But it's also the catch-22 of that is like, because I'm doing all this and because I'm providing, I'm missing out on some of these things. And so there's guilt and a burden that is really difficult to explain to someone who's not a dad.
Very true. And I think even as dads, one thing that helps me at least is I have to, and this is like a daily thing, because again, I struggle with work-life balance at times. And that's just, conditioned from, previous industries, previous upbringing. Like, I've been conditioned, I think you've been conditioned too, to be a hard worker, be a productive member of society,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. But what I have to do on a daily basis is I have to almost redefine what provision looks like for my family. Obviously there's the providing of, finances to whatever degree to help keep the household moving forward as far as keep a roof over the head, keep groceries in the fridge. But then there's those other provisions that if are lacking, my family suffers. That other provision that I have to give to my family is my time. They need me. And you mentioned this off camera. There's especially when you have young kids. My oldest is 6, my middle is 5, my youngest is 2. Yours are 3 and
1.
3 and 1. So at this moment in time, their biggest view of what we provide is time.
Yeah.
Now they know that they live in a house. They know that there's yogurt in the bottom fridge drawer when they go to get a Danimals yogurt. They don't know how it gets there, nor do they care. They just know it's there.
Yeah.
They don't understand what it took to get there. So right now, their only lens of provision is how much time am I getting with dad?
I think of the Jamie Johnson, The Dollar.
Yeah.
There's a song about that. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Lyrically, I like the story that it paints, but it's if you've not heard it, you should. It's a good listen. But I'll go ahead and give you the gist of it. Basically, the kid wonders why his dad walks out the door every day and goes to work for 8, 10, 12 hours and then comes back. And the mom's like, well, he does that so that he can get money because they pay him for his time and da-da-da-da-da. And so then he gets to thinking, and he goes to his piggy bank and he's like, I've got 35 cents or whatever it is. And he's like, how much time will this buy me?
Yeah.
And because here, ultimately he ends up getting $1. And mom calls dad at work. He's like, hey, you can come home. Your kid's got $1, like he can buy your time essentially. And so that there's a couple things that I unpack when I hear that. It's like, okay, the kid wants to spend time with dad. Dad wants to spend time with the kid, but he knows that the only way he can keep roof and provisions and everything else is to work. And you know, it's one of those things where trying to find that balance is really tough, especially like in our case, we both essentially work from home unless we're on a production of sorts, right? You know, we're able to do that with the line of work that we have, which is really a blessing. Like it's nice to be able to work at the house and to be productive and work towards a goal. But at the same time, like when your kids are also there, they can't distinguish home and work.
Right.
It's two places for you and I, and that's going to be the same for anybody who works from home. But like having to draw that separation is something that a kid can't do. It's like, well, Dad's here.
Yeah. Which means he's available.
Yeah. Why can't he play? Well, he's here. Yes, he's physically here, but he needs to do this right now. And so that's a balance that I'm still currently trying to work through. And I guess the kids probably won't understand it until they get older.
Right. But it doesn't make that hurt any less for us, you know. And I'm sure obviously that hurts for them too, because I mean, straight up, my son will ask me sometimes, well, why don't you just come shoot ball with me for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, 10 minutes. And so that's where, again, I have to, at least as a you know, work from home at times, compartmentalize what it means to provide. Now, it's a whole nother level for somebody who is actually going to a workplace.
Yeah.
And if I try to put myself in that person's shoes, one thing that I can say, again, helps me. Let's say I treated my working from home as me going to, let's just say, a factory. And I'm there for those 8 hours.
Yeah.
That means when I get home from my 8-hour shift, my provision hat turns into that time.
Yeah.
And again, and I try to do this even with Cole, especially because Cole's starting to understand more that, oh no, if Dad's home, that means we can go play basketball.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he thinks he understands. So I have to help him understand, like, once I'm done with this, you're going to get all of Daddy.
Right.
You know, because the thing that hurts me is, okay, let's say I do take that 10 minutes at that single point in time and go shoot ball. I then have to put an end to the fun because Daddy's got to get back to work. So I'm like, Cole, if you'll just give me, you know, another hour, at that point in time, I can take the work hat off.
Yeah.
And I can put the time hat on, and you've got all of Daddy.
Yeah.
So I would say, especially for dads out there that are, you know, let's say you are going to a physical location, maybe you don't have to bring your work home with you. And if you don't, I envy you. You know, one thing that we have a disadvantage of is, well, our work is at home, and as business owners, to a degree, I always have work on my mind.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to bring your work home, let's look at what providing looks like to our children.
Yeah.
From the time aspect. They just want time with you.
Right.
You know, they don't care, nor do they know how tired we are at times.
That's another thing. That's another level of it, though. Yeah. Like there's a bit of guilt that comes with that particular thing. It's like it's almost as if in society, you know, we need to have jobs so that we can pay bills and all these things, right? Like it's part of the whole society. And the issue with that is a lot of times your work hours are going to be your first of the day. Like you're going to wake up in most cases and then go to work. And so like what is kind of a bummer is your kids and your family essentially gets what's left of the day.
Yes.
Which it's not fair to them, and it's not, you know, it's just it does. It truly sucks. It's like, man, I am stressed from the day. I'm exhausted from the day. Mm-hmm. My kid doesn't know and understand that. All they know is they want some time with Daddy.
Right.
Maybe you've even got a headache, whatever, but it's all as a result of the work that got your best effort, right? Yeah. It got your highest level of energy and efficiency and output. So it's like, it sucks that the people you care about the most
get the least.
Yeah, they literally get the remainder.
Yeah.
Right before you go to bed to start it again the next day. So that's something that I personally struggle with, is like, man, they're literally getting the not the worst of me, but they're getting what's left of me, you know? And so that's another thing that I personally struggle with. I've not yet found a way to, I've been trying to make myself essentially, because it's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, you gotta push through it.
You've just got to realize, like, look, it's not your kid's fault that you had a stressful day at work and that you had a long 10-hour day on your feet. They still need you to be dad and husband right now.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to, maybe it's the sports background in me, like
push through the pain.
You've got to push through. Like you've just got to find it.
Well, again, I'm speaking to me when I say that.
I don't do it every time. There are days where I'm pretty well come home and sit down. I'm beat. I'm just beat. But I see the disappointment in my kids' eyes when it's like, when they're trying to get you to do something and
you're like, no.
I just don't have it in the tank today, baby. That's a struggle. And I'll say this, I don't have that figured out. That's something that I'm currently constantly trying to get better at.
Yeah, like if somebody has a bag of that I can, pick up and start chewing on, I'll be glad to partake, but we're actively learning.
It's
still.
not as simple as like, well, pound of coffee and get some energy. Like there's just, there's struggle there.
Yeah, they're struggling. And again, I think so as dads, as a collective, one practical thing that all of us dads on this earth can number one do is just try to be conscious of it. Be conscious of the fact that, hey, no, they're not the reason you had a bad day at work.
Yeah.
They're not the reason that you're tired. And all they want when you step through the door is just a little bit of daddy's time. And I would venture so far as to say they probably can't tell if you're faking the fact that you have energy.
No,
even when you don't. Like they just want you.
Yeah.
They want you physically there and to be invested in what they like.
The other thing, and maybe this is just personal, you can either agree or disagree here, but like the other thing that I struggle with, like even once the kids get to bed and it's just, me and Kara there, she has spent the day because she stays at home with the kids. She has spent the day with 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yep.
She's had zero essentially adult interaction throughout the entire day. So conversationally, she's not had any adult conversation, feedback, or anything. Yep. And so here's the thing, again, going back to the crappiness of the way that the schedule breaks down, this doesn't happen for us until like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I normally try to go to bed 10:30.
Yep.
So, literally it's the last hour of my waking day. And if I've had a day where like maybe I've had to be a lot more energetic with a production or like I've peopled out today.
You're out of words.
It sucks when my wife sits down and is wanting to talk to me, and I feel so bad looking back on those times where it's like I've just not had it. Yeah. I'm talked out. Yeah. And it's not fair to her. It's not fair to her that I'm just got nothing in the tank. And so those are times where, again, you've just got to, I don't know, somehow find it. And I don't do a great job of it.
Find it, and again, at least put on the act. Which a lot of times too, even with like Sarah, we're in a similar situation. She was a stay-at-home for a long time. Now she's working a public job again. She's a preschool teacher.
Right.
Same thing though. All day long she has 15 or so 3-year-olds as her interaction. Very minimal adult interaction throughout the day unless she's running ideas by another teacher.
Yeah.
So whenever she gets home, I think sometimes they yearn for that adult conversation.
Like I said, I'll admit right here I do a poor job.
I'm very poopy at it sometimes.
And being that my wife needs right then. It's just, again, it sucks. I don't know how to fix it, but like your family ends up in a lot of cases getting what's left.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think again, just going back, at least for me, one thing that I have to constantly do is remind myself, okay, what does provision actually look like? Provision for my wife whenever she gets home from a long day, from a tough day. And then whenever I get home or whether I've been at home all day and I'm drained, what does provision look like for her? Probably just somebody that will actively listen.
Yeah.
And be interested in the things that happened to her that day.
Yeah.
because we all want to talk about ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I want to tell her all the things that I've had to experience that day. But
right.
Again, going back to the scale of things, I can openly admit that I probably do a little bit less draining work at times. Sometimes more draining, but sometimes she just wants me to listen. And at that point in time, that's provision. That's providing for her, and that's not related to a dollar. Yep. That's not related to work, but that's what she needs.
Yeah. Which is also, I'll just go ahead and speak personally, that's difficult for me because, and we talked about this on the podcast with John and Bonnie, it's like immediately the way that I'm wired when someone's venting to me, telling me about a problem that they've experienced or whatever, like my mind immediately goes into, oh, I've got the fix.
Yep.
They're not asking for a fix, Jared.
No, we're Enneagram 2s, though, and that's what we do. We want to help.
Like, unfortunately, I probably hand a lot of unsolicited Jared fix advice to a lot of people who aren't asking for it, don't want it, don't need it, just because it's like that's what I want to do is help people and fix. And that's another thing that's difficult for me.
It has presented itself very recently. In mine and Sarah's marriage, which is, I'm going to tell this story and she's going to kill me, but I think it's hilarious. Again, we've been doing these, introspective dives on, our personality types. And I've had Sarah take a couple of different assessments. Obviously, me and you have done DISC and the Enneagram and everything, but we were making sourdough.
Yeah.
At the house the other day. I think everybody's in their sourdough phase right now. And there's a step in the process for making sourdough, at least now in the modern era, because we have technology.
Yeah.
There's a step that involves putting the bowl of dough into the microwave with a wet towel over it and the microwave light on, which means you have to leave the door cracked.
Yeah.
As a 2, and as my other personality type from this other assessment, it drove me absolutely bonkers, the fact that I had to remove the bowl and put my coffee into the microwave each time I needed to heat my coffee back up.
Yeah. Well, to use the microwave for its features.
Right, to use it for what its functionality is. And so I took the bowl, put it in the oven. I was like, hey, the oven's got space too. It's not being used right now. I would dare say I'm not going to heat my coffee up in the oven just yet. So I was like, oh, this is a great idea. I can fix this problem that I am seeing present itself in this workflow right now. Sarah comes in the kitchen, asks where the sourdough went. I said, it's in the oven. She said, why is it in the oven?
Well, it wasn't being used, and I need the microwave.
Bingo. I said, babe, I was like, I'm actively here heating my coffee.
Frequently here.
Yeah, frequently. More frequent than like pulling the bread in and out. And she said, yeah, but, the instructions said, let's leave the microwave light on. I was like, I get that, but I can fix this. I can fix this process.
Yeah.
By putting it in another space that's the same as the space that you're putting in. She's like, no, you don't understand.
It said do it in the microwave.
It said do it in the microwave, and I don't need you to fix this.
Yeah.
This is a process.
It's proven.
Process that I trust.
Yeah.
And we're going to go by the process. And instantly my deficiency came out in the problem solving, and I was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
What about the Egyptians?
Yeah.
What microwave did they put their sourdough in with the light on? What about the French, who are the masters of bread?
Right.
What did they do before the Whirlpool got installed or the Samsung?
Yeah, whatever maker you got.
Whatever maker. So we had this big debate about that, and then I stepped back, after that, and I was like, no, I didn't need to fix that, and she made a great point, and I was like, it got me. She's like, really? She's like, I have to use the microwave one day out of the week to make this bread. She's like, can you not accept not having the microwave for a few hours one day per week? And I was like, dang it, that's a pretty good point. And it's again a process that she trusted. She didn't need me to fix it, but my personality type was like, no, I got to fix this. I know a better way.
Hey, maybe a compromise is finding some sort of window. I don't know how long your microwave phase takes, but maybe finding it in a situation in a case where it's not commonly needed for its microwave functionality.
Yeah.
I don't know what that time looks like.
I don't know either. We've not done the data on that.
Yeah.
We'd have to run some tests.
Hey, that's what sourdough is, trial and error.
Oh, it's all trial and error. And I guess too, I could probably just make a fresher pot of coffee each time I need coffee. I don't know.
Yeah.
But going back to like provision and things that she needs, like that was just a situation of like she didn't need me to fix whatever the problem was. No different than whenever they come home, they don't need us to go into fixing mode.
No,
9 times out of 10. Now sometimes they are looking for an answer to the problem, at which as a 2, Enneagram 2, I'm like,
got no shortage of those.
Sweet, I've got all the solutions for all the problems.
Hey, and guess what? If that one don't work, let's hear about it again. And
I got 5 more ready.
Got another one ready.
Got 5 more in the tank.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think again, going back to my main point for these, these couple of ideas here, let's redefine what provision looks like.
Yeah.
It's not always, daddy's got to go to work and make $1 billion so we can have, a Ferrari and 3 ponies and 6 dogs and 5 kids. Sometimes provision is just time.
Yeah.
Maybe from you to the kiddos. Provision, from us to our ladies. Sometimes it's just a good listening ear.
Yeah.
But I think there's an even greater provision burden that we can probably, wrap up with once we're done with this idea, and that is our spiritual provision to our family. So this encompasses the wife and the kids and ourselves and our relationship with Jesus too.
Yeah, it's not like we're, we've got this old archaic view of like patriarch and women and the roles and what. That's not what it is.
Right.
But like, there is a biblical leadership, head of the household type thing that we also have a burden and struggle with and try and be the leader of the household. Because I think I mentioned it off camera, but like I guess a poor example would be I could spend my entire life making sure that every need of my kids and my wife are met.
Right.
Roof, food, all of these things. Like they never went hungry, all of these things. And that's some level of at least earthly success. Yeah. But if I have not led in a way that has shown the path to salvation,
right,
and they don't go to heaven, well then it's all been for naught.
Yeah, none of that matters.
That's all. Yes, vanity, as Solomon, vanity and vanity, right? That's what Solomon says. And so yeah, there is a burden to even lead spiritually. And I'll be the first to tell you, if I stack myself up against what the Bible says is a good leader of the house, I fall short in a lot of areas.
Oh yeah, 90% of the time.
Get it wrong. Got it wrong last week. Got it wrong today. Guess what? I'll probably get it wrong tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if you're striving to be that example, and you're striving to have the appropriate list of priorities, ultimately it's going to be okay. But that's a whole nother, that might be its own episode. But like that's a tough one.
Well, yeah, and if we're putting things on the totem pole, the top of the totem pole, it has to be our relationship with Jesus. Again, as heads of the household, and going back to defining what provision is.
Yeah.
If we don't have that relationship, number one, how in the world can we show our family a how-to guide, with a spiritual relationship?
Yeah, if you don't have that in order, it's kind of like I don't know. I guess it would be similar to you probably wouldn't take parenting advice from someone who you can tell on the outside looking in is not getting it done right,
or they might not even be a parent,
It's like no, like there's a.
It's like those are words. Those are words.
Great. But like if you're getting that first step right, it makes the other steps easier,
or at least trying. I mean, that's the thing is, as believers, we understand we're not going to get it right.
Yeah.
There are moments in time where we are like getting closer to getting things right.
Yeah.
But if we're not at least trying, not at least striving for that, again, I don't think we can lay out the roadmap, even for our family.
Well, so I'll give you, I guess, an easy example of trying and making the effort, because I think going to church is important, not because like it's a prerequisite to get into heaven, but like I personally need that adult elder interaction of just believers.
Yep.
Like I love
mentors.
Yeah, mentors and the learning and the discussions that you have with church members and things like that. So, but I also understand, like especially as a business owner, as a father, like time, to get to church can be difficult. But I will say this: it is 1,000% worth digging deeper than you thought your tank existed to get to church and to make that extra effort. Because the other day, it was a Monday, I was getting ready to, it was in the evening, and it was getting dark early, so it was already dark. I was getting ready to go to a shoot or something. So I was getting some clothes on and getting packed and everything, and Reese said, "Daddy, church." That's what she was telling Kara, and we explained like, "No, Daddy's going to work." And she said, "No, Daddy, church." And I was like, well, if I've got nothing else right, it seems as though to my 3-year-old, she knows that if I'm leaving the house
at this time,
there's a chance that he's going to church.
Yep.
Now, she doesn't understand any of those things. Again, she's 3 years old and she's behind developmentally and all these things. Like she doesn't understand why.
Yeah.
But
she knows.
But she knows, like this is a priority in my dad's life. So again, I get everything else wrong. So I guess maybe that's the only thing I've done right.
But I think she does understand though, because she's at least seeing the fact that it's important to Daddy, which means
that's ultimately what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like it means it's important enough that I need to remind Daddy that, hey, this is important for you, Daddy. Like we gotta get on this because I know it's important to you because you've shown me through example that it's important. So I think definitely making an effort to get the kiddos and the family out of church. Again, it's not because the church is a perfect place where perfect people go.
Oh, Lord, no.
It's actually a building where a lot of imperfect people go.
Well, actually, everybody in there
there you go.
Is that.
There you go. 100% of them are imperfect. But I think, again, like you say, it's great to have that spiritual interaction with other people who are just striving to.
That's probably one of my biggest pieces. If I have any advice at all for someone listening, it would probably be in the space of like, look, find you a group at your church.
Yep.
If you don't have a church, find a church.
Come to our church.
Get involved. And so here's the thing: like if you just kind of sit on the bench, so to speak. If you don't ever put yourself in the game, I'll use a Sports Illustration.
There you go.
Like if you're just sitting on the bench on the sideline, might not get too much out of it. But if you put any sort of effort into finding that small group, that elder who you can look up to, who's walked these paths before, again, you need to be finding people who are ahead of you in some facet. That way you can learn from them and hopefully avoid some of the mistakes that they made. But find a group at your church of other fathers and share these things. Yeah. Because there's a lot of freedom and power that comes from openly discussing the things that I can assure you other dads go through and understand.
We all fall short on.
And even if you have these conversations with your wife, that's great. But, they're going to see it from a different perspective.
Yeah, they see it through a different lens.
They're going to see it through a different lens. And maybe they understand, maybe they don't. I mean, I know they do, and they try no different than we try. But
I don't think we ever fully understand each other.
I can never understand completely my wife's perspective on things.
And just a disclaimer, the moment you try to tell the other person that you understand where they're at.
Yeah, you lose a lot of credibility there.
You lose a lot of credibility because, again, we will never fully understand on either side.
Yeah.
What the other one's dealing with or going through.
But there really is a lot of, I found a whole lot of help and freedom with discussing issues and just things that you struggle with and things that you're going through, because, again, you're probably not the only one that's going through them. But when you have other people who, you look up to and you can respect and trust, you start to build those relationships. there's a lot of power and ultimately, I guess you could say healing that can come from those situations. So that'd be, if I have any advice for anybody, find a church, get involved,
link up with a good group,
of people that you look up to.
Yeah, good practical application. So just to kind of round off and summarize, this episode, and again, we appreciate this particular listener for bringing this to our attention, and hopefully we've said something that's landed even a minuscule amount, because we're still figuring it out. We're still learning as we go. Again, I'm a dad of 3. You're a dad of 2. I do not claim to be a professional.
No.
Probably will never claim to be a professional, but I do have things that I've learned and that I am still learning.
Yeah.
And I think for me, so your practical application was let's get into these groups. Let's find some people who we can, have some common ground with.
Yeah.
I think my practical application again is let's look at what provision actually means.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think that it is all, hey, daddy's got to go to work and come home so you can eat.
Yeah.
That's a aspect of it, aspect of it, probably a very small aspect, or should be, that we make a whole lot bigger than the important things. I think number one importance, obviously, is that spiritual provision.
Yeah.
Our relationship that we can then help lay the roadmap for our family.
You need to be leading by example there.
Bingo. Secondly, or go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you're not, you're going to be leading by some sort of example.
I was going to say some example, good or bad. And secondly, I would say that the practical application would be just the time thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time, all they want is time.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this too, and I can look back in a lot of historical, and I normally can't see it while I'm in it, and so it's one of those things, like hindsight being 20/20. In retrospect, you can look back at a situation where maybe it was a tough time in the family, maybe you and your wife weren't as close as you had been, or whatever. Normally, I can look back truthfully and see, I had things out of line in the priority. Like I was not making Christ a priority.
Right.
Guess what was negatively impacted as a result of that. So knowing, making a conscious effort to constantly keep those priorities in line, and oftentimes, truly, if you would do a reasonably deep dive into a past period where maybe you did have issues, I'll bet you look back and you're like, no, I wasn't. Yeah. I didn't have it right at the top.
I think that's probably a priority chain thing.
So then you're like, oh, well, yeah, it makes sense as to why I was having these issues. Yeah. Those would be my takeaways.
Very cool.
I don't know if a single word we said made a bit of sense.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. This one was cool though. A listener
we like
requested topic.
We ask for feedback every episode.
Every time. On that note, any feedback?
Yeah.
Very appreciative. It's also, I am a type 2, so like it's nice to hear that something's helping. Something was helping. So like if there's a big capital IF there.
IF.
If it did help in some way, let us know. That would mean the world to us.
Yeah, that'd be cool. On that note, Jared, here's the hard part.
Yeah. We'll catch you guys next Monday.
All right.
See you in the next one.
See you, bye.